What's going on? This is TJ Murphy, and welcome to another episode of Adventurous Entrepreneurs. My guest today is Blair Nichols, a seasoned expert in strategic speaking and the owner of BBN Creative Management. Blair began his impressive career in New York at the HarperCollins Speakers Bureau and has since led speakers bureaus at Hachette and Simon Schuster for GTN, now known as UTA Speakers. His expertise flourished under the mentorship of Keith Ferrazzi while serving as his chief of staff, a role that deepened his understanding of how keynote speaking can drive corporate coaching and consulting. Blair founded his company with a mission to empower diverse and socially driven talent. At BBN Creative Management, he focuses on lifting up voices that resonate with purpose and guiding speakers and business leaders to new heights in their career. Just a few of the golden takeaways Blair and I talk about in this episode are lessons from Keith Ferrazzi, mastering niche audiences and strategies for speaker success and market penetration, crafting a compelling personal brand and how to generate leads from it, selling from stages and how to elevate yourself into a thought leader and market influencer. So without further ado, this is me and Blair Nichols. Welcome to the Adventurous Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Murphy. Since quitting my corporate 9-to-5 and starting a business while backpacking through Asia back in early 2017, I've had the privilege of learning from some incredibly adventurous entrepreneurs. Through these conversations and my own journey, I've learned that much like in life, entrepreneurship is an adventure. On this podcast, I explore the journeys of top-performing leaders in their fields. These wide-ranging conversations include tactical business advice, how I built this insights, lessons in leadership, life hacks, travel stories, favorite hobbies, and insights into living a purposeful and joy-filled life. Adventures await us, so let's dive in. Hey, Blair, welcome to Adventurous Entrepreneurs.
Hey, thanks, TJ. Great to be here.
Likewise, been looking forward to the conversation. So let's dig in. I'd love to start with just a bit of background on your journey. Can you tell us your story leading to you becoming the adventurous entrepreneur you are today? And what was the turning point that led you to move on and start working with established speakers and then ultimately setting up your own agency?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, and happy to try to make this as succinct as possible for your audience. But yeah, my story is that I kind of just fell into the speaking world without really knowing that it even existed. I was a lit major in undergrad and thought that I figured out that publishing existed and hadn't really known much about the industry. And my first job in publishing was actually at the HarperCollins Speakers Bureau. So they were one of the first publishers to have an in-house bureau to help their authors get out there and get more speaking engagements and sell more books. So that was kind of my entree to this world. And from there, I moved to other agencies. I was in New York for the first five and a half years of my career. I moved to LA 11 years ago to work with Keith Ferrazzi, a speaker and author of Who's Got Your Back, Never Eat Alone. He's got a new book out. So I was his chief of staff and speaking manager for a few years. So I got on the other side of being an agent and just booking talks for authors and speakers and just getting a commission and only caring about that keynote fee, and seeing how he was leveraging speaking for business development, for high-level consulting and coaching, and really, seven-figure deals with Fortune 500 companies. So it really took on a whole new world for me. I got my MBA at UCLA, so I moved out to LA with kind of this intention of, I want to become a manager. I want to get more business acumen. And so I, was working these jobs kind of along the way and getting on other sides of the speaking business. So after I finished business school, I went to work for another speakers agency up in Santa Barbara, helped them grow their talent list. But I really wanted to be in control of who I worked with, how I got to really spend my time. And so after, another experience of kind of building another agency and not really fully aligning with how leadership wanted to take the, the company or which clients that they really wanted to focus on, I was able to take a step out on my own. I started BBN Creative Management officially in 2019, but it was really 2021, 2022 when I started stepping out and doing that really full time, coaching and managing speakers and helping them figure out what is really not just their strategy to get more speaking, but what is their strategy to build a business around their speaking. I saw so many clients make millions of dollars on speaking. But once I understood this bigger model of like converting the audience and what a lot of people do really well and don't ever worry about keynote fees, I realized that there were so many speakers who were A, leaving so much money on the table, and B, were exposing themselves to another pandemic, to another vulnerable situation where all of that revenue can go right out the window. So since then, I've really been, helping people figure out how do they build products and services around their speaking? How can they continue to grow a business while still making speaking a priority for them without making it the only thing, and while having kind of like that narrow set of views that the only thing they want to achieve is to get paid to get on a stage. Okay, great. That's just step one of maybe another 2 million, so what is
Mhm.
it going to do for you? How is it going to help you? And really, what are your goals and intentions around it? Because those are different for everyone. So no one is going to take this same cut and dry strategy. There's not one path for every type of business leader or speaker or entrepreneur or someone who's just thinking about getting started. So you really get to kind of figure that out for yourself. Like speaking is just another channel, to explore your goals.
Yeah, so many rabbit holes we can dive down here. But first, I'm curious. I love Keith's work. How did your time working with a legend like Keith Ferrazzi shape your views on keynote speaking and its potential for strategic business growth?
Yeah, well, that's really, as I mentioned, where I first started seeing it as a tool for business development. Like
Yeah.
he would describe it as the tip of the spear. If you're getting up on stage in front of, C-suite executives and other leaders, like what an incredible opportunity to not only, highlight your expertise and kind of connect with those people, but also to use it as an opportunity to try to problem solve for them, to figure out, what are their pain points and how can you, even as a speaker, even in a keynote, start to kind of address those so that you open a door to a conversation. So what Keith was really great at was, having a strategy for actually developing relationships. That's what Never Eat Alone is all about. It's about developing your people plan. So he was really great at, okay, when we're traveling, speaking, who else do we know in these cities? How else can I maximize my time and advance relationships, in pursuit of business? So I really got like a supercharged look at, just how to super maximize or optimize, an executive's travel or speaking or other things, and like just starting to look at it through that lens, though it was just a one set of products and services in this case. And now, I work with people who've got a wide variety of different things. So it doesn't have to be consulting or, even coaching if, that's a natural add-on to speaking, but there's a lot of people that are advertising, speaking for their various service businesses and
Yeah.
all different types of businesses.
Yeah, so I'm also curious, outside of like maximizing your business trips and lessons you learned from Keith about speaking, were there any other just business lessons, tips that he would pass on to you? Anything that stands out from your time working with him? Because I mean, he's such a high performer. Always curious if there's things we could tease out here that have helped you
Yeah.
along your way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously working as a chief of staff to someone, like him was quite stressful. It
I
was,
bet.
he's quite demanding and very single-minded, when
Yeah.
it comes to that. But not like you said, as a high performer, being very strict about what he needed included in his schedule. I think
Mhm.
you hear it a lot from, top CEOs and other people. They get up early, they work out, they block their time for specific things and they're very intentional about it. He was like that. Like it was probably one of the first times where I, like, what do you mean we like the workout is the one thing that can't be like rescheduled on this, like most business people would sacrifice their health and their well-being because they're going to drive themselves to work as hard as possible. And he certainly was a hard worker, but he had figured out already like how he needed to function as a high performer and what the things that he required in order to do that. And I really
Yeah.
admired that discipline, both in his workouts, his, and how he communicated what his needs were. But it was also an exercise in insanity, most of
Mm.
the time, having 3 backup flights for just, the sanity of knowing that there was 3 backup flights
Wow.
available and already booking, and a lot of things that were probably like take some and leave behind the rest of
Yeah.
what I learned.
Yeah, but definitely like, your inputs dictate your outputs. So figuring out what those non-negotiable things that really fill you up are, for many it
Totally.
is having that morning routine, getting your workout in and knowing what really fills your cup up and allows you to perform at your best, and making those non-negotiables in your calendar is definitely a great takeaway. So appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about BBM. Can you kind of walk me through how you work with your clients, and yeah, just paint the picture. Who are your clients? How do you help them, and what are the outcomes that they experience on the back end?
Sure. Yeah. I launched BBN Creative Management because that's really what I think of myself as like a creative business strategist, business creative strategist, whatever you want to call it. I call myself a manager in the sense of I like to think of myself as holistic in helping my clients with all areas of their career, not just an agent that focuses on the transaction of booking them for one talk at a time. So in my business, a lot of it is more coaching than management. I can only manage fully, so many clients. That's kind
Yep.
of was one of the things in the first place that attracted me to this, is like getting to have a smaller list of clients that I can go really deep with, that I can work with for a long time and can work on with a variety of different things. So in that sense, I kind of function as a COO, or, a chief product officer, or, like I'm their chief salesperson. It doesn't, it all kind of comes together as one thing. Cause a lot of
Yep.
my clients, even if they've got other jobs or commitments, I'm really, the one running this area of their business, or they don't have that type of support around them. So I'm kind of supplementing, that business management support for them, while also helping, define the strategy and working with, whether they've got marketing teams or social media
Hmm.
teams on all of that. So on the management side, I'm marketing to all the bureaus, all of the speaker bureaus. Those are really the agents and the brokers in this business that I've worked with throughout my career. And I'm a resource for speakers for them, as opposed to they get hit up by a lot of non-exclusive speakers all the time, people who aren't represented, and, they have to sift through that or basically ignore most of it. So, I've got a little bit of a, carve out, and that's where I fit into that business. But on the coaching side, which is what I do a lot more of, because there's a lot more people I can serve, I'm working with people who are either getting started in speaking, or they've been successful in business and now they want to translate that into doing more speaking, or how do they, position themselves as a thought leader based on the success that they've had. And most importantly, how can they actually now leverage speaking to grow their business, or, pursue their next goals, or where they want to make impact. So I'm helping them figure out, okay, how are we first figuring out your speaking platform? What's the bio, the positioning, the topics? And we
Hmm.
really only want, two, maybe three topics. We don't want you to be expert on XYZ, marketing, sales, all the generic, business functions. Like most speakers, you have either a book or a methodology or something that kind of distinguishes you, so that your point of view becomes really tied to your keynotes. And, I help figure out how do we make that, as universal as possible. So this message could be for a sales audience, it could be for a leadership audience, it could be for others. So helping really flesh that out. And then it's all about go to market, right? So we've got this speaker package now, whether that manifests as like a 1 or 2 page PDF. You got to have your video assets and your topics, all the things I already mentioned. And now you're going out, with your warm network to start, like reintroducing yourself to everyone on your list and in your network. And hey, here are my topics. Here's what I'm doing. Would love, any suggestions or opportunities. And then, yeah, how else do we start getting you out there in front of other audiences? What about you? Maybe you've got a big Instagram following. Maybe you're bigger on LinkedIn. Maybe, where can we lean into what you already have to expand that platform, grow it, with the intention of driving people to your website? I'm the way that I work, whether I'm managing or coaching, like I'm just helping you build your brand, your business. Because if I'm managing your speaking and people are messaging you, it's going to come to me anyway. So I'm not trying to just, drive people to my website and your website. It's like, I'm really just trying to help you elevate that so that you are in control as the speaker, as the client. When people are coming to you, you have the option to negotiate. You can, better quote a fee than having to spend most of your time going out cold or outbound or all of that. So I really try to focus more on like the media, PR, raising the platform strategies, and continuing to leverage, existing lists and platforms while growing that audience, as opposed to like spending a lot of time on cold outreach or things like that, which can work for, younger speakers, especially, or people who are starting out. But I think, you want to figure out how best to maximize your time too. So I take my clients basically through this process, and usually it's a 90-day process of just getting them kind of up and running, quote unquote, where they can pitch themselves as speakers. And now they can, as they're out there, whether it's in media or otherwise, they can drive people to a site where people will have very clear picture of what they do as a speaker. So it's all about, like, if you're trying to promote yourself as a speaker and people go to your website and then there's nothing about speaking, then you're probably not going to get booked as a speaker. So, it's kind of like, it's not like you have to, it's not chicken and egg, but yeah, there's certain things you got to really have if you want to now start going out and making it happen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like you really are the force multiplier for your clients. And like from what you shared, Blair, you're doing a lot. You're playing head coach, you're the quarterback, you're helping with both the high level, here's what we're gonna do, but also how we're gonna do it and the implementation. So again, a lot to dig into here, but I'm curious about what you talked about initially about, okay, we're on stage, we're getting these opportunities. How can we leverage this to not just get paid to be up there, but sell from stage, build our personal brand, and use that as a mechanism, the point of the spear, as you said, to grow a business? Like, how do you go about that with your clients and develop that platform so that while they're at these events, they're also driving their broader business and brand goals?
Love that. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah.
And it starts with them having that positioning, right? That topic, like that kind of package ready to go. And I talk about, there's different types of events. Not every event is a paid keynote speaking event. There are events where you can, they don't pay speakers at all, and no one gets paid, and it's just a free opportunity, and you're basically donating your time. And there's some where you might want to pay. You might want to be a sponsor just to get on that stage, because getting on that stage means speaking to this ideal audience of executives or entrepreneurs or whoever that may be. And in those situations, oftentimes you can even make a direct offer. So breaking it down a little bit further, when you're going into a stage where you're getting paid, you can ask for the least number of extras, right? They're paying you, you're there to show up and do your thing, and you're not, they don't want you to sell. They don't want you to like try to recruit people in a really obvious way. But even in these situations, I have clients who, I've got a resource I'm going to share with you. I'm going to give it to you later in my talk. So just, they tee it up.
Yeah.
And then, maybe 3/4 of the way through, before they move into a close, they're like, here you go, scan this QR code. You're going to get this in your inbox, like quick and brief. Oftentimes speakers give out their slides, drop your email in this, and, I'll get you. I've had clients now who are converting 80-85% of those audiences to sign up and getting their email contacts. So in one method, just even from a paid keynote, even if you're walking away with cash, you turn that audience now into followers, subscribers, and you can market courses to them, workshops, coaching, whatever. Now they're leads. Now you've actually, generated leads, and you can start working those. And obviously not all of them are going to convert, but if only, you get 10% of that audience, it's going to be a lot less leads to work with. So I help them figure out, like, what is that mechanism, that thing they give out? Or is it a quiz? Is it an assessment? Is it something they take in advance? Like, there's a lot of different creative things that you can either offer as like a freebie, or, as it has value, but you're getting it for free, and working that into your presentation. Now, if you're not getting paid for a talk, say you're, I'll barter, I'll speak for free, but can I talk about my products and services at the end? Can I get an email list of the attendees? Will you send a dedicated email to your attendees about my session or about my product or service afterwards? So when we get away from an actual keynote fee, there's a lot more room to bargain. And there's a lot more room to bargain for things that are free for the event organizer, but very valuable to you. So in just the free sense, like thinking about what else you can ask. And even when you're getting paid, like doing more will help. Like, hey, do you want to interview me in advance of the event? So I'd be happy to do that. Do you want me to promote anything on social? And now taking all of those things into the free discussion, how can you be of value to them, but also figure out what are the things that they could give you. You don't need your logo on a step and repeat or on a lanyard. You don't need any of that, but you might want booth space. You might want to be there so people can come and talk to you, of course, after you speak, and then get them signed up for a call or, sell them right there. So think about like all the assets that they may be able to, exchange, even if you're not getting paid. And then finally, when you're sponsoring, like I said, like you're investing. So now you're in the driver's seat. I mean, there are events where it's difficult to become a sponsor because a lot of people want that opportunity. But regardless, when you're paying the money, you have a lot more power to dictate what you want for that sponsorship. What you want stage time, you want those email contacts, you want to be able to sell or to be able to immediately convert, that investment into something else. And those stages are more set up that way. So there are a lot of opportunities. You don't have to wait to get invited into a corporation for a lunch and learn. You don't have to wait and hope that you get booked for some speaking engagement. You can go out and do these for associations. You can volunteer and then say, hey, yeah, I'll do this. I just wanted you to send an email out on my behalf. Like you can get super creative with where you want to speak, and not, as long as you're understanding that the ROI for you is not necessarily like the cash up front. And I think that's where a lot of people don't really understand how they can make more out of these opportunities. But if you can't immediately tell people go to this link and buy now, which is going to be less common than these other things, you're really just lead collecting, and then you're using, the other mechanisms available to you to then convert those clients into customers, or leads into customers.
Yeah, I love this. Like don't leave value on the table. Get creative. What are things that are very low cost to the event, to the company, but super high value to you? Getting those lists, getting that extra stage time, having a booth. There's so many strategies that you laid out here that can really help you get in front of your ICA and position yourself as the solution that they're looking for. So
Yeah.
within those many buckets, like, is there anything that you have found to be just most effective, or the most frequent use case to be able to help your speakers expand their reach and impact? Like, what's working well right now, I guess, is another way.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on it with, like, I assume ICA is about your ideal client.
Yeah.
You're having that clarity and being able to niche maybe even your initial offering to a very specific audience. I think just makes things so
Yeah.
much easier. If you just want to talk to financial advisors or real estate, people, or if you can focus on that, and like I'm describing, like go and be the speaker that's leveraging those opportunities, speaking to those associations or events or lunch and learns, where they know exactly that you understand them, I think is a great way to start, and then broaden it from there. Use your niche, because that'll help you super narrow and will make you stand out. Because if they're like, oh, this guy talks about digital marketing, everyone know this guy is digital marketing specialist for financial advisors, and that's his whole thing, they're going to be a lot more interested in that. So I think starting small, if you want to leverage this to grow a business, go after those niche audiences that really are your ideal clients, to as much as you can qualify that, and grow it from there, because that just helps you get that momentum. And
Yeah.
from there you can leverage all the different places you've spoken, and start to develop content that goes beyond that niche market.
Yeah, I love that you're speaking my language here. As a marketer, understanding who your ideal customer or customers are is so critical. If we're speaking to everyone, we're speaking to no one. And especially up on stage, the riches really are in the niches. If you can understand those people that you really know are the right people that are going to buy from you, that you can provide so much more value to, you understand their pain points. You can curate your talk to really just make them feel like you're speaking directly to their soul, to their needs. And that's what's going to allow you to stand out in what is a very crowded marketplace. Let's be real. There's a,
Yeah, for
this
sure.
selling from stage and getting speaking opportunities is a popular method for good reason.
Hmm.
And understanding who your niche is really going to help differentiate you and have faster success. So in that vein, let's talk about some wins. Do you have a particular case study? You don't have to get into specific names or anything, but an example of a client that you worked with where everything you've just described, that strategic speaking strategy, significantly benefited their business?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the clients I'm working with now, that's who I'm referencing, that is getting like 85%
Okay.
of the audience to, click yes, download the free resource, sign up for the email list, and turning that into now launching a community. He's launching a digital course in a month. And so each step of the way, we've just leveraged his speaking to continue to grow this list and this community. He has a podcast as well. So leveraging
Mhm.
that for him to talk to influential people in different areas of the industries helps credentialize, obviously, this program that he's now launching in this community. So, but has remained, very much focused also on getting corporate speaking and getting booked and, keeping those doors open that those could turn into deeper engagements as well.
Yep.
But it's a lot faster to convert someone in the audience to a customer than to convert a company into a bigger customer. If you've ever gone through corporate sales processes, they usually take quite some time. So that's why really, yeah, I think his model's working really well. I've got another client that's kind of launching her first big program right now that's gonna really, kind of supplement what she's doing in speaking. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited to see how it's working for different people because speakers, especially our younger generation of speakers, they're functioning more like influencers. They have to be on these different platforms. And if they've got to be on these different platforms, then they don't need to subscribe to the one channel of revenue. Like they can
Mhm.
do what influencers do and they can, speak in, in a keynote sense and be, an influencer online. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's really more about now there's all these options available. What really excites you? And now
Yeah.
let's cater your strategy to that. Don't try to do it all. No one can do
Not
everything. You can't
sustainable.
be on every platform. Focus on your strengths and let's see how we can leverage those for more.
Yeah, I love that you touch on that. I mean, we're collecting people's information, right? Typically, that's an offer from the stage where you're getting an email list and you're building that. But what are the platforms that you feel like you can best position yourself on? And as you said, if you try to do everything, you're not going to do anything well and you're probably just going to burn out. But having a podcast, having an online community, obviously, social media presence is important. And figuring out which ones are going to allow you to really speak into your customers, your potential customers. And going back to what we talked about before, when you understand your niche, when you understand where your customers hang out online, what platforms do they subscribe to the most, that's going to help inform where you should be building your community at the end of the day.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, and it's an iterative process, like you go through all this work and you launch these topics and then you might write an article and that takes off and that becomes your most popular topic. So
yeah.
you really just have to keep putting it out there and hopefully keep aligning all of your activities so that they're serving. You're on a podcast and that turns into your marketing. You're on stage and that turns into new leads. So all
Mhm.
of it should just really just flow from one thing to the next.
Yep. It's a funnel and it's going to evolve over time.
Yeah,
As you alluded to, things shouldn't just stay the same and stagnant. Keep working with what works, but also be open to the new as well. So let's shift over, kind of talking about, all right, here's what success looks like on the back end for people that are just getting started, new to speaking, or want to build a platform and position themselves as speakers. What are the key components that you see of a successful go-to market strategy for a new speaker in today's very saturated market?
yeah, I mean, it is starting with what does differentiate you. How do we define your positioning and what is your platform that would allow us to at least say, hey, this is a reason to look at this person. And now because they've given enough of a reason to get in front of someone, what's the topic that goes along with that? Why are you qualified to be speaking about that? What are like basically it's kind of like an audit. Like, what do you have? And what are your strengths, and how do we take those and continue to grow on there? And where else can we get you out there? So I think podcasts and other types of opportunities that you might volunteer for, you can, that are lower stakes than getting booked for a corporate engagement where you have to deliver a full keynote. There's a lot of opportunities where I think you can start practicing, and also at the same time be building an audience. So I always encourage people just to get going, whether they speak at their school or their kids' school, or university or church or any other community group, at your own company, at your friend's company, wherever you can get some practice. It's the type of thing that you can rehearse, but it's not the same. Like, there you can practice, and athletes know there's only so many games. That's the real thing, and that's the same thing with speaking. So I would just say try to get out and do as much of it as you can, because even if you are speaking at your church, there's going to be business leaders there, and that might turn into something. And in general, it just helps you get better. And it's really hard, obviously, if you never try, to keep working on it.
Yeah, that's gold. I mean, for me, about 2 years ago, stepping into wanting to do more speaking and getting up on stages, I used podcasts as my, I mean, really zero risk, maybe low risk opportunity to practice and get comfortable and iterate and try different things, try different messages. And it's such a great way to do it. Also, like Toastmasters, finding these other communities where, yeah, it's always hard to get up there in the beginning and be comfortable, but there's no risk associated with it. You're getting the reps, you're getting the at bats, so that when you do get up on that big stage, you've had hours, hundreds of hours, hopefully, of repetition to really stand out and make sure that you're ready to be up there. So I love that. I think that's perfect advice for anyone getting started. Just figure out and find the opportunities that are low risk and going to give you the at bats that you need.
Absolutely.
All right, Blair. So shifting gears here, we're talking about entrepreneurship, speaking from stage. Anyone who's looking to do that has a lot going on typically. And one of the biggest hurdles that we all face at one time or another is just living a well-rounded life, doing the things that we love to do with the people that we care about most, and not be all consumed by work and business. So for you, aside from your professional life, what personal passions or activities do you find the most fulfilling?
Yeah, interesting. Well, as a lit major, I've always been an avid reader, and a bit of a writer. That's kind of my deferred career down the road, is getting my own book and all that stuff out. But in general, like, I'm involved with a few different boards and community groups. I really like being involved in helping plan events and be part of the communities that I'm a part of, like alumni communities and others. So that takes up more of my free time, but I'm also just a huge traveler. I chose this job and this life and this all of it because I love to be able to, not be in one place all the time, and to be bi-coastal, to go back and forth, at least between, LA and New York, but also getting to see my clients all over the country, all over the world, and just personally traveling all over the world. Like, this kind of lifestyle really suits me, because that's what I love the most. Like, is just having that freedom to see and do other things. And nowadays we can work from wherever, so we all have that flexibility at times.
Yeah, we're alike in that way. Starting my business, the ultimate goal was to be able to have location independence, live where I want, travel for work, travel for pleasure, and be able to take my business with me wherever I go. So I love that you've been able to achieve that among a lot of other things that you've been able to achieve in your career. So looking forward, you mentioned a book. What are some aspirations or goals you've yet to fulfill?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit cliche, but after, almost 20 years in this business, like, just I've done a fair amount of speaking and all this myself. And now I feel like there's a story that aligns with, the kind of message that I want to talk to people about toxic leadership, and my perspective, having booked hundreds and hundreds of speakers for all different types of events, especially ones that relate to personal growth and development. And then kind of being immersed in this world, but also experiencing bad leaders along the way, and how I think we all experience that. And we don't really, a lot of people, that drives us to be entrepreneurs. And, we still might be, suffering or healing from the PTSD of a corporate job, a toxic boss. And then the truth is that most people never get that opportunity. They just have to
Yeah.
jump into the next job. They don't really get an opportunity to like, heal. And it's just kind of a perverse way that we work in this country, that sometimes the people that are the most important relationships can be the most damaging. And there's plenty of books about, a spouse or a partner or like a bad relationship romantically. And I don't know, I don't really hear a lot of us, sharing openly and talking about bad relationships with managers and bosses and companies and cultures. You hear a lot about it, but I still feel like it's a bit of a taboo. So I
Yeah,
want to
it
break
is.
that taboo and get more people talking about that, which gets more people to stop acting like bad bosses, hopefully.
No, I love that so much. My wife was literally just talking about this the other day as she gets ready to deliver a keynote at a conference that her company's putting on. And part of it was talking about how, yeah, our managers and our bosses do as much damage to our mental state, our well-being, give us as much anxiety as having a bad situation with our spouse or a
Hmm.
close family member. So having that in mind as a manager and a leader is super important. Everything that we do has a major impact on our people, and we got
Yeah.
to show up in the right way to really help them grow and thrive. So
And I
we
and
need
I
more of it
think
in the world. Get out there.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so complex because it's your primary source of income. It's your insurance. Like so many people have two, like they can't escape, like it feels like in other relationships, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah, you get the idea. Like I feel like a lot of the clients that I've gravitated to, they don't talk necessarily just on this, but they talk about, making the workplace better, making the employee experience better, because that makes companies better. So I think it's just kind of where I've gravitated to in both the talent that I work with and, what I personally want to, see and change. So hopefully that'll be what's next. And, you'll find me traveling the rest of the time.
Yeah, well, same with my wife and I. We love to work hard, but we play much harder, and travel's a big part of that. So,
So
in that theme, a question I always ask before we wrap up is a choose your own adventure question. So you can pick which one you'd like to answer, or both if you so desire. But what's a favorite place that you've traveled to recently, say in the past 5 years, or just like your favorite place in the whole wide world that you love to go back to time and time again? And in either case, why? What makes it so unique? What do you like about it? Why was it memorable? Maybe a favorite meal or drink you had there. Who were you with? Give us a little bit of a story.
sure. Well, I'm not gonna follow your exact
You don't
parameters,
have to.
but
Yeah.
I'm going back to Barcelona for my honeymoon this summer, and I haven't been since 2005 when I studied abroad in Rome. So it's been almost 20 years, and I spent most of my time in Italy. But we did like with one of my girlfriends, like we did like a long weekend in Barcelona, and I just absolutely fell in love with the people, this beautiful city, the architecture, the food, and it being a city on the beach. Because I was in college and like in DC, I was long before my LA days. So this whole novelty of being like close to the ocean while still in like a major city, etc., was incredible. And yeah, I think I just kind of loved everything about it. It felt like, is Rome and Italy was fun, but it's a very buttoned up kind of culture and a very, like more conservative in that respect. And Barcelona was like the opposite. It just felt like this like release. And so I'm just excited to go back, bringing my husband and spending some time there and going back to Italy. And so, yeah, I love going to Mexico and other places that's a lot easier to get to from California. But I'm excited to go back to Spain and Italy and Mediterranean and like the California of Europe.
Mm, yeah. Oh, it's gonna be amazing. I'm excited for you guys. It'll be so fun. It's an area I have never not traveled to yet. My wife has, so it's on my bucket list to make
Good,
it out
good.
there, and I'll have to hear what your experience was like. So thank you for sharing that. And Blair, before we wrap up, for someone who is eager to make their mark in the speaking industry, to make an impact in the world, wants to start getting up on more stages, what's one piece of advice that you would offer them?
Yeah, well, I guess, in addition to speaking will beget more speaking. You really just got to
Yeah.
get out there, and, put yourself out there and start adding value to different places so that you can, like TJ was talking about, get those reps. That's usually my main piece of advice. And you can also check out my website, bbncreativemanagement.com, and set up a free 30-minute chat. And I'm happy to help you maybe figure out what your next steps might be, but otherwise I'd say just get started, go out there and do it. And, you'd be surprised by how quickly that can develop, or at least get the wheels turning to what you might want to do next.
Yeah. Don't get stuck in paralysis by analysis. Take the first step, take action, reach out to Blair. He can help point you in the right direction. So we'll put the website in the show notes to make it easy for everyone to find you. What's the best social media channel or place to connect with you outside of the website?
Yeah, LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram as well, so you can find me on both. I think LinkedIn is like the place for speakers, and obviously it's a big market for people and vendors and all that. Yeah. So I'm more than happy to connect with me there. And find me and BBN Creative Management on Instagram as well.
All right. We'll put links to all your socials and the website and everything else we can find in the show notes, so it's easy for people to connect with you. And Blair, appreciate the opportunity to sit down and chat. This has been full of golden nuggets for people listening, and keep up the good work. You're making a huge impact out in the world. So thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, TJ.
To all of our Adventurous listeners, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share this on social media or with someone you know will get some value from it. Leaving a review goes a long way in helping people find the show, and I personally appreciate reading them when they come in. So please go drop one if you have the time. We'll see you all next week, and remember, whether we're talking about business or the things that bring us joy outside of work, life is meant for exploring. So go out there and live it one adventure at a time.